Good afternoon, Yonkers. This is Freddy Vazquez. Basement Politics Unfiltered. Afternoon special. A history of Yonkers corruption. Join me. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. I'm Freddy Vazquez. This is Basement Politics Unfiltered. This afternoon on this special, a history of Yonkers corruption. Let's go over some of Yonkers' history in politics and discrimination in the housing and education system here in the city of Yonkers. And is it still happening today? Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. I wasn't going to come out today, but I received some links to check out some videos on YouTube, and I started to watch them, and I thought they were interesting, and I wanted to talk about that. I've been speaking about this, last night I spoke about the master plan, and is the master plan a plan of segregation? I want to share something really quick here that I saw on YouTube, found this while scrolling and looking for anything on Yonkers corruption.
What have you seen in Yonkers City Hall?
Too many unnecessary employees. Government, I believe, has gotten too big and not in the right areas in all forms of government, county, city government primarily. There's too many political jobs created out of nothing just to keep people in office. They create jobs just to perpetuate their continuing to remain in office. Civil service is supposed to protect the people, to make government jobs available to everybody equally, but the civil service in Yonkers has been so corrupted for many years that that process has been flown out the window.
You came in here and you knew there was a lot of problems in the city council, in the mayor's office. What are those problems that you were concerned about? What are the frustrations that you're going through now? And what are the things you want to do to make a difference?
Even at the state level, I'm having them investigate certain things that I believe still exist in the city of Yonkers. The sense of entitlement, the city cars, the cell phones, these are all taxpayer-funded items, and they're very costly, and they play no small part in draining the resources that we do have. But it's total arrogance in government, abuse of power, manipulation. It's just an abuse of power.
How do you?
An abuse of power. And I just want to show that real quick. That's Joan Gronowski, former city council member. And you heard her say it there. One of the biggest issues was the jobs, the corruption in the civil service department, and how jobs are handed out. It's all political. And even jobs that are created specifically to give to someone for political favor because it's a friend or that's a family. So I want to talk about this corruption, the history, and I'm going to show a clip of a meeting, a Yonkers City Council meeting, where they were discussing the housing ordinance. And I just want to show you guys the flip-flopping, the two-sided or the two-faced, talking out of the both sides of their mouth. You're going to see from the city council majority leader here. I'll get to that in a second. Unfortunately, Yonkers has had a long history of corruption. Now with the mass development of luxury rentals, right, way out of the budget for the average residents in Yonkers, many here in Yonkers are wondering what's really going on. As people become more aware that many of the changes happening, especially in the downtown area, seems more like a cleansing of those deemed less desirable than that of a beautification of our city for all. And while many of us, including myself, are just now starting to wake up to what's happening, we must take a trip into the past to fully understand how it is we got here and where we may end up unless the people, we reroute ourselves from this trajectory, that we are on. Well, let's start back when many thought the world was going to end. And although 2012 did not bring an end to humanity's existence, it did bring an end to the political career of Sandy Anabi. And it also exposed just a small sample of the real estate corruption currently going on here in the city of Yonkers. And for the most part, the players have remained largely the same. Let's go back to 2012. I'm going to show you a clip here from News 12, back when they actually did some work. Did I actually get that clip? No, actually, I didn't find the clip. It's a clip from News 12, and they speak to Zahi Jeris, I believe, as he's coming out of the courtroom, right? And they talk about, what he's done, how he got Anabi, in trouble, got her sent to prison for bribing her to change her vote on the Ridge Hill project. Sandy Anabi was convicted of accepting bribes from Zahi Jeris in order for her to change her vote. This is very important to remember. Don't forget this. Remember this. As a result, she was sent to prison, and so was he, for 4 years. According to the FBI, Jeris bribed Anabi so that she would approve the Ridge Hill project, which initially she did not support. And she didn't support it up until the last minute. Again, sounds familiar. Remember that. Although they went to prison, the nearly now empty shopping center, Ridge Hill, was built anyway. If this sounds familiar, it is because it is familiar. This is very similar to the flip-flop the current majority leader did on the affordable housing vote, which was not in the interest of the people, but the developers. So we must first take a look at where Councilwoman Tasha Diaz came from, the now majority leader. Before politics, Councilwoman Diaz was a community leader who supported the likes of Virginia Perez, a former legislator who represented Diaz's district on the county side. She was a master at getting into low-income buildings, Perez was, and getting into low-income buildings to get people to vote for her. One of those buildings was Jefferson Towers. That was where Tasha Diaz was the president of the Tenants Association, and she would help Perez get votes, right? And that's also how Diaz met Jeris, through others as well, but through Virginia Perez. Jeris, looking to get his way back into politics, hatched a plan to get Diaz elected to District 3. Although they tried to block Diaz when Michael Sabatino's former council president, was he president? I believe a council member, his husband, Robert Voorhees, challenges Diaz's petitions in court. Why? To keep Jeris out of politics. However, the man is a genius. And if it weren't for Anthony Mangone, who also was indicted in 2012 in the Ridge Hill scandal, according to some, Zahi would never have gotten caught back in 2012. But now he's back, getting Diaz elected in 2019. Diaz ran on affordable housing and being a champion for the people. She even displayed that passion in this clip that I'm going to show here from a past city council meeting where Diaz uses her fiery attitude, right, to go and challenge Corazon Pineda, the then majority leader, to put the affordable housing vote onto the codes committee rather than the real estate committee. And so she showed that she truly was caring about it, because that made sense. And I agree with her on that, right? So let's watch that real quick. I want to show that meeting here because it's important to see the flip-flopping.
Amending Chapter 43 of the Code of City of Yonkers entitled Affordable Housing. This is, yes, Honorable. Yes, Honorable.
Just would like to point out that this is a pretty major piece of legislation. It has been, it wasn't brought up at leadership on Friday. I guess it made it to the noon deadline, but I don't know how this happened, but I wish this had been a topic of discussion at leadership, just so I know what's happening. To find out later on that this was added to the agenda.
Okay.
Through the chair.
Well, let me just address that, and Mike, I do agree with you that
Mike Breen is saying that this was not brought up in leadership meeting, which consists of the minority leader and the majority leader. But Mike Cater, the then city council president, says, well, I understand that, but sometimes that happens, but we're going to really get to it now and discuss it and vote on it now. So what's the big deal? But again, Mike Breen was putting a resistance to this from jump, and you'll see what else he does here in a minute.
We went in. It came in before the deadline. One thing that I did have a conversation with the majority leader, and it has happened from time to time. It's not a common practice, but in the event, if anything comes after anything that comes after leadership, but before the deadline, hey, FYI, this came in between such and such. So you're absolutely correct, as I told Cortisone last night. Okay?
I get it. I'm just something of a major piece of legislation probably should be.
Well, listen, we're part of leadership. The substance and the nuts and bolts aren't ironed out in leadership. As you've been going to leadership. It's just as a FYI, here's what's the nuts and bolts are going to be discussed in committee, as with all major legislation. Okay, but now, I just want to answer this, Sinead,
No,
please.
thank you.
I just want to answer this question,
Yeah.
and then I'll give you the floor one at a time. Mike, did I answer your question? Okay. Sinead,
Well,
yes.
I also just wanted to add to your point, Mike. I'm the one who actually introduced this after you guys' leadership meeting because I'm not in leadership. I don't know what time you guys meet. So if you want moving forward in the future, if there's something that I think that would be beneficial for you as the minority leader to know, and for the administration to know, I will be more. Yeah, and I will personally make sure that I get it to you.
Once again.
If you're a homeowner in New York and you're
sorry
still
about
paying
that.
for electricity,
Once again, Sinead Williams there, not being fully responsible, sending this stuff out and alerting people. But again, Mike Cater also saying that it doesn't matter. We're going to discuss the meat of it, right? The nuts and bolts of it now in this meeting. We're here, so let's do it now. But again, this is all about putting resistance to this affordable housing ordinance, which they killed, right? That would increase it to 20%. And I'll go more into that in a second.
There was a discussion on to what committee this should go to, either a real estate committee, which is chaired by Councilman Rubo, or legislation and codes committee, which is chaired by Majority Leader Cortisone Pineda Isaac. And I think there was discussion that we'll just bring it to on what committee it goes to. So the question is not; those are the two options: legislation and codes, chaired by Cortisone, or real estate by John Rubo. Right? Yes, you want to say this?
Yes, I do, through the chair. I did speak to Councilwoman Williams, who addressed concerns as to why she wants it in third committee. And I just want to point out that regardless of which committee it goes to, one, the council president has the authority to put it out of committee if for some reason there was some obstruction to be occurring. Two, if it goes to passes to be put in real estate, the chair, the sponsor of this bill also is in that committee. She is not in legislation and codes. So I thought also that it would be good for the person who sponsored it to be able to be a voting member in the committee from the start to the very end. And three council members, myself, yourself, and Ms. Williams are also on that committee. So the conversations continue and the advocacy for this piece of legislation will continue. And really the process, this is just the very early stages, and where it goes, it really doesn't prohibit how this moves forward.
Through the chair,
Yes,
I respectfully disagree that where it goes, it doesn't really matter. It does matter. I'm fully aware that I'm not a voting member of Legislation and Codes Committee, but I'm also fully aware that the three folks, yourself, Majority Leader, the Council President, and Tasha Diaz are in support of real affordable housing and making sure that we get more affordable units to Yonkers. And that is why I am more comfortable putting it in this legislation, which is Legislation and Codes. Also, it is directly changing a current ordinance. So it makes sense to put it in Legislation and Codes. While it does affect real estate, and it will affect a lot of people, you can make an argument that it could go in a lot of different committees, to be quite honest. But the point is, even though I do sit on real estate committee, I know the relationship that I have with the chair of that committee. And
So real quick before she goes into John Rubo, if you're just joining me, this is they're discussing where to put the housing ordinance vote and to put it into the Legislative and Codes Committee for discussion and voting, or to pull it into and put it into the Real Estate Committee, which is chaired by John Rubo. Now, the Legislative and Codes Committee is chaired by Corazon Pineda. Now, why is she pushing it off to real estate is beyond me, considering she says that she supported increasing the housing ordinance. So why not do everything possible, which is what Shanae is saying here, to make sure that it gets passed, right? Because John Rubo was not in support of it, although he then said he was, and then he flipped, but that wasn't a flop. That was just him lying, right? But so Shanae's trying to protect the ordinance and make sure that it does get passed, right? But for some reason, Corazon doesn't want it in the legislative and codes. And then now you're going to hear Shanae give reasons why it should be put in legislative and codes and not into the real estate committee where John Rubo sits as chair.
And I know that politics, unfortunately, sometimes get in the way of getting real things done for the residents of Yonkers. And I am not interested in putting this very important legislation, like the minority leader said, in a committee, taking a chance of making sure that that's not going to get the attention that it needs. And that is why I'm advocating, and I'm very, very serious about this, that this should go in legislation and codes. And we can vote on it and let that be, but that's just how I feel. Thank you.
Does anyone, John? Thank you. Through the chair. I have, as real estate chair, I have no intention of seeing probably one of the most important pieces of legislation that we're going to pass be held up. And I'm committed to seeing change to our affordable housing ordinance. And as chair, if this gets put into the real estate committee, I will bring stakeholders from every component of affordable housing to the table so that they can speak at committee meetings, and we will have meetings every week if everyone's schedules permit. And this.
Did you hear what he said? That he would have stakeholders come together and meet, and they would have meetings every week in order to discuss the need for more affordable housing and passing this ordinance, which would have increased it from 10%, where it sat for a very long time, to 20%.
In another one, Mr. Rubo lied to me.
Just had to throw that in there.
This is something that's very
important. He had none.
So it's not something that I'm going to let die in a committee. It's important to the residents of the west side, the east side, and so on and so forth. So that's my commitment to my colleagues on the council.
I appreciate, through the chair, can I speak? Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you. I don't want to do that, but I
want to give everyone a chance.
Okay.
Is there anyone that wants to talk on this issue? Shanae, I just want to give everyone a chance before. Shanae. Yes.
Yes, I would like to talk on this issue because
Listen to Tasha.
I don't understand why it would not go into legislation and codes. Yes, it is something to do with real estate, but moving forward, if you look at the description, the code of the city of Yonkers, it needs to go into legislations and codes. And quite frankly, it really affects districts 1, 2, and 3. Okay, so I don't understand why you as a legislation and codes would not want to jump on this and take this full on. I don't understand what's the pushback. Why do you want to push it somewhere else when it can very well sit right with you in legislation and codes and have us address it accordingly?
Right.
Through the chair, I know you want to let everyone else speak.
That's the Tasha Diaz I like.
Okay, so the reason I believe that real estate is an appropriate committee, because I do believe that it directly impacts development. I also believe that when we start off any piece of legislation, we start at 7. So when when we're saying we don't want to put this in a certain committee because of these concerns that seem political, right away we're saying we're not starting at 7. And I think that that is a disservice to the body and to the process. So what I want to do is give the opportunity for this to be in real estate, for this to be done accordingly, to bring everyone to the table, and for this to truly really get passed and go through.
I don't agree with that. You're putting the cart before the horse.
That's right. Didn't Councilwoman Diaz say I did not have a seat at the table. She did. She cried and screamed that I didn't have a seat at the table, and so I didn't get to really see it. So all those months that I was supporting it, I never sat at the table. Well, here she is sitting at the table and doing her job, actually, because she's right. Why is Corazon throwing it off into the real estate committee? Doesn't make sense. Right? She should be taking this on. And she says, well, it's a real estate, thing. It's going to impact real estate development. But for who? For developers. We don't care about them. The city residents are the most important. Those that need affordable housing are most important. This isn't a real estate thing. This is a living thing, a home thing, a having a shelter over your head thing that people can afford thing. This is a social thing. This isn't political. This isn't real estate. And for that, I can see that Corazon did not have the best interest of the people. Tasha Diaz said, exactly, this affects 1, 3, and 2. 1, 2, and 3 districts, right? Well, then, Tasha Diaz, now you don't seem to care about those districts because I see you with the luxury developers over there putting in shovels where you don't belong, not in District 3, and you're pushing more and more luxury developments. What happened to this Tasha Diaz? Where did she go? Well, have you guys been, paying attention from the beginning? Remember, I told you to remember that important thing, and I'll get into that in a second with Sandy and Nabi.
Okay, if it's if it's a code that we are trying to change in an ordinance, it needs to go into legislation and codes. And then if you want to take that somewhere else after, I agree with that. But first and foremost, it needs to go in legislations and codes. And if you say you're for affordable housing, as you say you do, you should be pushing for this to go into legislation and codes and not pushing back.
That's right.
Through the chair, my actions and will show that I am truly for affordable housing, and that's it. And it will be proven through the process of this.
Prove it.
I do. Okay, Shana, you want to say that's it? And
Yes,
there's
no, I was
comments
just going to
about
say, in response to Councilman Rubo's comments about how he will have meetings and not try to let it die in committee, I appreciate you saying that. But I would also like to point out that there was a time this year where there was a real estate issue dealing with my community, my district, and I pleaded to you as chair of real estate not to move that item out of committee, yet you still moved it out, still ignoring the people of the district, giving them the real opportunity to have the necessary conversations with the stakeholders that needed to happen. And I don't trust that you will take this matter seriously when we come before you as chair of real estate. And that is the main reason why I'm pushing for this to go in the correct committee of legislation and codes. And we can still do all those lovely things and have all the meetings and, as many meetings as possible in legislation and codes. So that's just all I have to say. But I'd like to just ask that we just do the roll call now and just be done with it.
Through the chair, just to respond. And this is my last comment. Thank you, Mr. Chair. The issue that came out of committee at the last real estate meeting that you're referring to was voted on by 3 members that decided that it was time to stop delaying that affordable housing zoning change and to bring it out to fruition. And let's see that project move ahead. Affordable housing,
Who were those 3 members? You,
150 units of
who else?
affordable
And the
housing.
Republicans?
It was decided that by a majority members of that committee to take it out and start moving it forward.
I don't remember doing a roll call for that, but you just took it up on yourself to move it out anyway. But that's beside the point. Let's keep it moving.
So we moved it ahead. It was voted on, and we're moving ahead with affordable housing.
Hi everyone, Mark
And another one,
Barden here.
Mr. Rubo lied to me. And I don't vote for a person that lied to me. Thank you very much.
She's calling Rubo out on his crap. She's saying basically, Rubo, you're not going to do that. You didn't care about some other issue before. You moved it out of committee when I asked you not to. You said that you were going to keep your word then, and you didn't. And Rubo wants it in his committee because he works with the developers. Let's just be honest, right? AMS is his landlord over at the Yonkers Brewing Company. Many wondered, is there any quid quo pro happening there? And should he have been investigated along with Mike Cater? Right? So John Rubo wants it because they know what they're going to do. They're not going to pass it. So they knew back then that this was not going to get approved. I don't think Tasha Diaz knew about it just yet, but you see how much she's changed, right? So ultimately they go on to vote on it, and it ends up in the real estate committee because Mike Breen introduces a motion to put it into real estate committee after his legal counsel or whatever, his attorney whispers something in his ear. He introduces the motion to put it into the real estate committee, and then they eventually wrote on it where it got voted to go in the real estate committee. I believe it was Shanae, Mike Cater, and Tasha Diaz who voted for it to go into legislative and codes committee, and the other council members voted the opposite. So Corazon never wanted it to increase, that's for sure. Corazon, this is why I want people to understand this. This is why it's important to go back. Let's look at the past. Let's look at how things are now. So when they speak out of their, rear ends, we know that that's what they're doing. You can throw all the unity in the communities, and this is no disrespect to some of the people that were involved with that. But as far as the politicians, the elected officials, you can do all these, things in the community. But the reality is you don't care about the community. You don't care about the people's true needs. They don't need a party. Okay. They don't need music. They don't need face painting. They need affordable housing. They need quality schools. They need resources, programs. They need police presence. There's a lot of shooting in that area. They need, cleanup in that area. They need to make sure that the fire hydrants are actually upright and working and not laying sideways and broken. So, there you go. I mean, that should show us, particularly the Latinos and Blacks of this community, of this city of Yonkers. You have to see that we all got excited. Well, not we, but many of you got excited because there were 4 women of color on the council. And although Shanae was, really seeming passionately like she wanted this, she has since done nothing. She hasn't pushed forward to, pushed hard enough. She doesn't call him out, really. I mean, she does call John Rubel out, but that's where she kind of, stops there, right? She doesn't really call out other people. I think she's kind of, maybe doesn't really want to touch it with Tasha Diaz, She does say things about Corazon, but she doesn't really go after the real reason why these things happen. Right. So I wanted to show you that because I think that that's important there to see that meeting as it happened and what transpired just before they voted there. Right. So anyway, remember, I wanted to go back to Tasha Diaz. She fought hard. She was right on point here. She was correct in saying that it should go to the Legislative and Codes Committee. But that was a different Tasha Diaz. A new Tasha Diaz emerged, and one that, not so sure if I like, right? So anyway, again, that was the right thing to do. I agree with Tasha Diaz. It should have went into the Legislative and Codes Committee, but the decision was already made that they would not pass the new affordable housing ordinance. Diaz may not just yet have known at that time that that's what was going to happen, but she would eventually join in on the plan by ultimately being responsible for killing the affordable housing ordinance, leaving it at 10% instead of 20%, benefiting all of the developers. So why the change of heart, Diaz? And even Shanae, as someone says, I missed that Shanae. It was prior to her running for county clerk. That's right. They got to her. She said, you know what, I'll get out the city, but you failed us now. Remember who it was that got Diaz elected. Remember who it was that got Diaz elected. The very man convicted of bribing a councilwoman to flip-flop on her vote, Sandy Anabi. So did it happen again? Many says yes, and her reward for flip-flopping on the housing ordinance when she at one point supported it so passionately was the title of majority leader. And maybe some blonde wigs, and I honestly, and this is genuinely true, I've gotten a lot of sources that said that a certain doctor has prescribed her some medication for the weight loss, here all connecting the city of Yonkers using the insurance policy, the health insurance from the city of Yonkers. So, I mean, she has lost the weight. Her hair has changed. Remember, the majority leader title does come with more money. And then reason she gave was it did not, address some of the low income needs, although that had nothing to do with low income housing, and also that she did not have a seat at the table. But we can see her sitting down right there, arguing for the right thing at one point until she became jaded maybe with everything in politics here in Yonkers and decided if I can't beat them, I'm just going to join them, right? But that's not all she got. She also had to betray. That's not all she did to get the majority leader title. She also had to betray former city council president Mike Cater, and it's now beyond obvious that our Yonkers City Council is compromised. That is exactly why the political and I wanted to show this video where from News 12, they had a political analyst there from News 12 who's speaking about specifically Zehi Jerris and how individuals like that must be kept away from politics. They have to be kept away from politics, and otherwise we stand to have a political system and elected officials that are compromised. And so, as many everyone knows, Zehi Jerris is behind Tasha Diaz. He got her elected. I mean, if you look at the Sandy Anabi situation and the Tasha Diaz situation, it is exactly the same. Exactly the same. The individuals that are behind her are the same individual that were behind Sandy Anabi. And so I'm concerned for you, Tasha. Very concerned for you. I hope that, nothing bad happens to you, but you're playing with fire. That's right. You're playing with fire. So, yes, they said a man like Zehi Jerris should be nowhere near politics yet, and still he is allowed by the Yonkers Democratic Committee and elected officials and those who seek to become elected candidates, including ones for city court judge, to manage their campaigns. Why has none of our leaders objected to this? Maybe the officials are remaining quiet, but the voters are not. Some say, which is evident by both losses of District 16 for the congressional race there, as Vidat Gashi lost. And so did last year Tim Hodges, who lost for District 6. People are pointing to those as a sign that voters are tired of certain individuals, and so candidates may not do well if they have those individuals behind them, unless, of course, they have no one opposing them or challenging them in those races, which we see happen all the time, right? So I want to show you that, and I got another video here I want to show real quick before I get up out of here. No, I'm not going to show that. I'll show that one tonight. So it's very important. Will this trend extend into next year's city elections, right? So will this trend of people who are being supported by certain individuals no longer winning or not winning recently, right? And that is a sign that the voters are tired of it. So will this trend extend into next year's elections, city elections? I believe it will most definitely play a role in how people vote next year, especially as the year progresses and we go into next year and more information starts to come out. Basement politics continues to grow, and I start to make more and more people aware. As the development goes up and more information comes out in regards to how many of these deals are being made, more and more people will be waking up to what is truly happening in Yonkers and who is it that our elected officials truly represent. It's time for change. It's time for change. This discriminatory practice in housing here in the city of Yonkers, as well as our educational system, has not changed since the 80s, where a judge ruled that the city of Yonkers was purposely segregating folks. It kept Blacks and Hispanics and all poor whites, all poor peoples, mostly to the south and southwest side of Yonkers. And those schools in that area were never renovated, were never taken care of. And now the schools are still somewhat in crappy condition. And is it because 75% of the student body is living at or below the poverty line? 72% of the student body is Black and Latino. And as we see the housing developments go up, based on statistics, they're not for the Black and Latinos. They're not for anyone who's making $35,000 a year, which is the average resident of the city of Yonkers. So an area that was once less desirable is now a hot spot where everyone wants to develop in. So now it's time to uproot those same Blacks and Latinos that were once quarantined, so to speak, or contained to that area. And as they develop everything here in the city of Yonkers that has to do with affluence, high income, expensiveness, they're neglecting our schools, the low income community, as well as those in need of affordable housing. And people are just going to get kicked out. This is an intentional removal of people. It's almost like what's happening or happened in Palestine. I mean, you might as well see bulldozers going through people's homes as they run out, because they're literally being pushed out through pricing and through the introduction of businesses that normally the people in that community would not use, and prices they cannot afford. And it's affecting all of Yonkers. They're going to change zoning laws and codes because they've already completely infiltrated the zoning now that the chairman recently retired. And so the east side is a target. You guys have a train station over there too, don't you? You think that they can't build developments over there because of zoning laws? Oh, yeah. Oh, watch them change. And if anything else, they're going to have to build more affordable and low-income housing. And will that be on the east side after they change some of those zoning laws? So this is going to impact everyone, and we all need to be aware, which is why important everyone needs to come out and vote. I'm Freddy Vazquez, A History in Corruption. I had some other video to play from News 12, but I couldn't pull it up for whatever reason. But I will have it on the page. Go check it out. And you can see the same people, same things are happening. Sandy and Nabi, right? And now you have Tasha Diaz. Tasha Diaz is the new Sandy and Nabi. And it's only a matter of time. It's like when these gang members try to take over the industry that I own a business in. They're trying to extort people. And threaten people, to their competitors. And it lasted for a good 2-3 years, but we all knew it was going to end. And finally, the FBI came in, and they never pick up the people at the top. So I'm talking to you, majority leader. Be careful what you're doing. That is very suspicious. The way you just flip-flopped, changed the vote, lied to the people, said you didn't have a seat at the table, which you did. And now you are in full support of the developers. And so I'm concerned what happened there. Complaints were sent to IG McLaughlin and they were ignored. Of course, McLaughlin was in city council at one point, and then after he lost to Mike Cater, he was the city council president. He ended up becoming the inspector general here in the city. So you think that they're going to, put someone in there that's independent, that's actually going to do investigations? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Right? So that's why he's there, and that's why the only investigation that we've seen is the one into Mike Cater. That's it. And I'm trying to find out, that video I wanted to show you that featured Anthony Mangone. I think his name is Anthony Mangone. Is that correct? Mangone. And Zahi Juris, they're coming out of the courtroom. I don't know why they make it so difficult to find. But anyway, that was a good video clip, and I'll have it on the page there. So check it out. But again, it's a history of corruption. It's happening over and over. It's history does repeat itself. And it's pretty much the same individuals. 14 Courtney is on the east side. They changed the zoning, and Michael Calvi is in charge of the project. Mayor Spano's cousin-in-law. That's what they do. They change the zonings. I wish I could find that freaking. It's like they must have took it out. They said, "Oh no, we can't let Freddy Vazquez get that footage." News 12 West. Anyway, if anyone could find it, check it out. News 12. I hope I can see it. Let me see. Ridge Hill. What is it? Ridge Hill scandal. Yeah, Nabi. Let me see if I can find it. Why is it so difficult to find? They must have. I hear that they actually have done stuff to certain people here in the city of Yonkers to keep certain information from popping up. When people search, and it must be because I can't find this thing. It's like nothing on it is coming up. But anyway, folks, I want actually let me see if I can show you something here. I'm going to show you guys. It's a clip from this is a discussion with a panel of experts that are discussing the affordable housing segregation, the housing segregation case of Yonkers, and I thought it was very interesting, and so I want to show you that really quick.
Invidious, egregious discrimination, both in the housing area and in the segregation of school children in education. I think it's fair to say, indeed the court did say, and by the way, the Reagan Justice Department said as well, that Yonkers was guilty of intentional discrimination. Found that the city of Yonkers had engaged in invidious, egregious discrimination, both in the housing area and in the segregation of school children in education. I think it's fair to say, indeed the court did say, and by the way, the Reagan Justice Department said as well, that Yonkers was guilty of intentional discrimination. Found
Guilty
that
of intentional discrimination. Is that still going on here in the city of Yonkers? I think so. I think so. I mean, the primary concern in the development should have been for affordable housing, not even low income, because I get it. We want to, progress. We want to move up. We want to change, the fact that there's so many, children in our community living in poverty. So we have to, put things in there that kind of inspire people to move up, right? To what they say, to move up the ladder success. What I forgot how the term actually goes, right? So yeah, affordable housing, not build more low income housing, provide better quality of school and jobs. So that way people can get these jobs, people can get educated, people can have a better future, and they can afford to pay for their own housing. They don't need low income housing. They don't need to be in a lottery for a voucher or for a waiting list in the hopes that they get a voucher. And it's not fair that while this is happening, there are several people that are enriching themselves while pushing people out, forcing people to have to uproot themselves, make drastic changes to their lives simply to benefit their pockets. And it's even more sad that people who look just like them, people of color, are involved in it, are part of it. They have made decisions that make them equally guilty. And I could only imagine what else they've done. And, if any legal, cases, indictments will be brought up, I'm sure some of them will be facing conspiracy charges. They knew exactly what they were doing. Tasha, you knew what you were doing based on that video. And then the decision you made that day, you knew what you were doing. You knew what was going on. And it's obvious. And you're setting yourself up for a big fall. Promise you that. I'm Freddy Vazquez, folks. Thank you for watching. I wish I could have got that freaking video from from the Ridge Hill scandal. I don't know why I can't find it. But it's a good video, and I think people should try to check it out. But it shows the corruption. It shows the history of corruption. It's important that we we see this. We're aware of this because we can see what's happening now. We can see it being repeated, and so we have to stop it. We have to come out and vote next year. We do. We can't be jaded anymore. I know a lot of people are jaded. They're tired. They hate politics. It's so corrupt. We're not going to deal with it anymore. Screw that. Why this thing? You can't get anything on it. But anyway, and have you seen Ridge Hill? I mean, a lot of the stores are empty. Like, anybody know what's going on? Thank you. I appreciate it. No, thank you guys for watching, supporting. I do this because I care and I want to see us, head in the right direction. I don't want to see, it's just crazy. Look at all these developments, man. Who wants all this traffic? I'm tired of it. I'm done with all this stuff. It's too much. And they're not even done. They're not nowhere near done. I don't know how many more buildings and studios are coming up here in the city of Yonkers. It's crazy. It's unbelievable. So I'm done. I'm tired of seeing it. We need to slow it down. We need to reassess what's going on here in the city of Yonkers, right? And head in a different direction, right? And start to think about what we really need to do. We got to improve these schools. We got to figure out housing for all those people on Woodworth that are going to be kicked out and on Warburton, because there are homes right now that I know that have been sold and the people haven't left yet, but it's only a matter of time when they're going to have to leave because they've already been sold. So where are they going to go? Right? So we have to, think about this stuff. It's going to cause a big problem for a lot of people. Yonkers will never be the same, and I don't know. I love Yonkers. I don't want it to change so much. So we need to come out and vote. I'm trying to find the Sandy Anabi thing. Anabi, I don't know, guilty case. I don't know. I wanted to show that video. I couldn't find it when I saw it on my phone and I couldn't find it. It's crazy. I don't know. Anyway, folks, I'm Freddy Vazquez. Thank you for joining me. Have a great rest of the day. I will see you probably Wednesday now. Let me see. No, nothing. Nothing on Sandy Anabi. Nothing on Zahi Jerris. That's crazy. That's unbelievable. That can't be real. That cannot be real. News 12. Ridge Hill. What is it? Ridge Hill scandal. Ridge Hill corruption. Oh, corruption trial. Right there we go. Maybe I should have tried that. Nope. All I see is a bunch of minorities with guns. What? That's all I see. I type in Ridge Hill corruption. I get minorities with guns. See? You see the programming this social media is doing to us? You see this? This is crazy. Ridge Hill, Yonkers. Wow. Nothing with these guys. Nothing. Anyway, folks, I'm out of here, folks. If you find it, can you please post it up on there? I'd like to show you this stuff. Wow, nothing. Man, you guys did a good job getting this stuff out of this search engine optimization stuff, man. You guys did a great job. I don't know what phrase. I'm out of here, folks. Yeah, Sandy went to jail a long time ago. But the point I'm making is that, see her situation, see what happened there, and look at what's happening with the majority leader. The only difference is the project and the person, the majority leader, the elected official. It's the only two difference in those situations. Oh, in the year, okay? It's 2020, 2012, and that was almost, 10 years. What, 2022? It was 2021, last year, right? So think about that. Think about it. It's exactly the same thing. Exactly the same thing. So if I was like a prosecutor, FBI, I might say, hey, let me see what's going on there, because it's exactly the same thing. Why did she all of a sudden change her vote, right? You saw the video there. She said she didn't have a seat at the table, which she obviously did. She was very vocal about it. Right? She never told us about this part where, I was trying to get it put into the Legislative and Codes Committee and they threw it to real estate so they could kill it and all that stuff. Right? No, she just went on this thing where I didn't have a seat at the table and it didn't address low income and this, that, and the third, although it wasn't for low income. It was for affordable housing. Right? Macy deals with low income. It was for affordable housing. And at the last minute, when she had the opportunity, it was a super majority. Black women, again, think about this. 4 black women, super majority, Democrats, I thought you guys were all about equality. What happened? Super majority, Democratic super majority, 4 black women, all from the area that's being gentrified, all grew up in, low income or affordable housing. Some still live in it, and it couldn't get passed. Think about that. Come on. I mean, think about that. That's it. I mean, how you say keep exposing, I will, but how much more do I have to keep exposing? I mean, think about that. That says everything right there. Everything. Who's behind the city council president? Wilson Kimball. the one leading the charge in the developments. She's on all the groundbreakings with the shovel. The blonde-haired woman that was at the climate change meeting at the library. Well, she's the one that's supposed to be heading housing, right? The one that did the lottery and wanted to put it live on Facebook to show everyone who needs housing, like to embarrass people. They're reshuffling the deck there. They taking down these low-income housing just to redo them and then put different people in. Reshuffling the deck because they're going to reduce the population of those who need low-income housing and affordable housing. That's the goal. And if they reduce the number of those people by pushing them out into other places outside of Yonkers, guess what else they reduce? They reduce the population of the student body of the Yonkers public schools. So will they really need more buildings in the future? Think about it. Think about it. Yet it would have violated confidentiality. And that's the thing. That's one thing. And then people were waiting for years. You're right. And so they reshuffled the deck. And so some people are like, well, I was already on a waiting list. Doesn't make sense. Where did the people go when they tore down Cottage Gardens, when they tore down the chicken coop to do them over? How many people returned? How many people returned? Where did they go? So that's the plan. They're removing people. The last infiltration, and it's almost complete, is of the Yonkers School Board of Trustees and the school board. They need to get Quesada out. Once they do that, they have more control, full control of the schools and the decisions that they want to make there. And some of those decisions include selling off some of the properties where school buildings are currently located on now, some that are open. Remember I said that. John Rubel already mentioned it. He let the cat out the bag when he asked Quesada this in a meeting once. I mean, that question just didn't pop up into his head at that moment. I'm sure this was a discussion that was had by certain individuals. And John Rubel is the chair of the real estate committee, right? So I'm sure he's involved in these talks, real estate talks. So we have to just follow closely, listen, and remember what's said. And I know we have so much going on that we forget that they said this and now they're saying that. But we must remember all that's said and hold them accountable. And then that will also tell you the lies, that will show you the lies, and that will tell you where they're headed and what they're really thinking, what they really want to do. It's really no secret if you pay attention. I mean, they're removing people from the zoning board. I mean, I don't know if it's illegal just to remove them, don't notify them. Is that okay? I mean, is that some kind of ethical? I mean, just remove people, the senior most members, the most knowledgeable, the ones that we can truly count on, I should say, to make the best decisions for the city, remove them and replace them with inexperienced people that are related to investors, real estate investors. And then after that, you got projects now being approved that weren't approved initially. So come on. And Hector Lopez, again, he's voting on these changes in zoning laws, but does he even live in Yonkers? Or does he live in Verplank? Because that's important. If he doesn't live in Yonkers, which I don't think he does, then his votes don't count, and that 44 Hudson project approval is null and void. And that's important to know. It was approved 4-3. His vote was one of the yeses. So is he living in Yonkers or in Verplank or in Middletown or in Brewster? Which one is it? And so this is not okay. And this is the type of corruption that I'm talking about, because all this has an impact in one shape or another. And that is why they infiltrated the zoning board completely now. Wilson Kimball's going to head that along with Macy Municipal Housing. You know how much money Macy got from the federal government? Do you know how much money Macy got from the federal government? What did they do? What did they do with that money? I guess they renovated some of the old housing, which they didn't need that. What about the ones on the east side, over on Roxbury over there, you know, that were part of the desegregation and all that, and then those were built? Those are in super bad shape. I've been to one of the apartments. Someone called me up. I went over there. The floors are all warped. There was a leak. They only painted, which they didn't even clean the mold and stuff. They just painted over it. Poor woman is living in this apartment uneven floors because they never dried it out properly nor cared to change the floors. But they're not worrying about redoing those because it's all about the waterfront. It's all about the waterfront. So you have to see it. You have to see, what's really happening here. I wish I could have got that video, but I guess maybe it's not meant to be. So, folks, again, it's sad that we have 4 women of color who are selling us out. They're selling out Trevor Park. They're selling out the JFK Marina. It's being all bought up by Joe Carter. He's removing people and businesses. They're going to put studios there. That's what's going to happen. Where are you folks going to go over there in Woolworth Ravine and Warburton? Start thinking about it now. They're going to move you guys, and they're going to move a lot of people from the Ludlow area. They're going to build a bunch more developments over there, a 2.5-acre park on the waterfront there. Layla Gorin is still holding on to the power plant in hopes that she gets that casino license so she can have a waterfront casino and entertainment venue. So what's happening here? This is not for the residents. I'm wondering what's even Yonkers becoming. You have a big MGM Grand casino, full gaming and hotel on the east side. You go over to the west side, you're going to have all these luxury developments, studios, Lionsgate's filming, big Syracuse campus with 20 plus studios, people in the film industry all around. And they're not going to go to the bodegas really because those are going to be gone. They want to go to the Starbucks. They want to go to the Whole Foods. They want to go to the wine and spirits, not the liquor store. It's going to change. I'm Freddy Vazquez. Yeah, thank you. I went on a little longer. New York. See, I've always planned to leave New York, so I'm ready to go, but I'm not going to leave anytime soon. I'm going to be here, especially for next year. Well, we're going to come out and vote. We're going to challenge the status quo. So I need you to support me. We need someone that cares about the people, not the developers. We're going to make them pay. All those years of high taxes, money being taken away from the schools, it's time to get that back. And there's only one person that can do that. I'm Freddy Vazquez. This is Basement Politics Unfiltered. Thank you for supporting me. I appreciate you guys. Thank you for sharing. Continue to do so. The videos are getting a lot of views. And I'm going to continue to expose and keep bringing you information, keep making you aware. And for my sources, thank you so much for providing me information. Thank you for the support. I appreciate it. And I'm here truly for the people. This is not politics. This is about a city that I love. I don't need anything from the people. I don't need to take from taxpayers. This is about the city I love and the people that are being pushed out and the people that are not getting anything. Nothing. Nothing at all. Taxes are going up, water bills, electric bills, schools still crap. I mean, people in the Charo, families that do well, own homes, complaining about the conditions of the schools their kids are in. I mean, where else are you going to go and pay $8,000, $15,000, $20,000 a year in taxes and your kid has to sit in a school with no AC or a heat system that doesn't work or a classroom that has 35 kids? And roofs that are falling down, according to Shanae Williams. This is unbelievable, and it needs to change. And we need to find out where the money's going. And we need to shake down MGM Grand. You're going to come here into our city, you got to pay. You got to pay. We want a percentage of your revenue. Otherwise, see you later. We don't care. We don't really want you here anyway. I'm Freddy Vazquez. Remember, next year is important. Have a very good rest of the day.
In another one, Mr. Rubo lied to me. And I don't vote for a person that lied to me. Thank you very much.
Thank you folks for joining me. I'm Freddy Vazquez. This is Basement Politics Afternoon Special, a history of corruption. Look at what's going on. Read between the lines. Is it time that we vote these people out? Yes, it is. I'm here for the fight. I need you to support me. Votes matter. That's our weapon. That's how we defeat the status quo. It's time for change. This is for our kids. This is for their future. This is for us, people here in Yonkers, those that want to change, but not like this. not like this. And it's time for somebody to get in there and make them pay. I'm Freddy Vazquez. Thank you. Have a blessed day.
Freddy wins. Fatality.
You're watching Basement Politics with my dad, Freddy Vazquez. You're watching Basement Politics with my dad, Freddy Vazquez.
We're going to leave it where it is. Let's vote on this. Let's get it popping.
Thank you for watching Basement Politics with my husband, Freddy Vazquez.
Freddy wins.
No!
Freddy wins.